What if you and your family were trapped? You all were poor and made very little money, yet the only access to food you had was 30 to 50% more expensive than a grocery store, according to Native Relief Charities, leaving you and your family left to try to grow enough food to support yourself. What steps can we as students take to change the course of food insecurity in Native American communities? Since we as a college have the resources to help, why shouldn't we? What would you want if this really was your family? Today I'm going to talk about why Native Americans are food insecure and what steps we as a college can take to help change this and why these actions are necessary. One of the primary reasons that Native Americans are food insecure is due to a lack of funding and support from the government. Native Americans are twice the level of poverty than other U.S. citizens, according to the Journal of Independent Review. The National Institution of Native Americans share that Native American communities only receive 0.19% of federal funding. And while this may be hard to wrap your mind around, most of this goes towards mandatory things like Social Security, Medicare, and defense. This leaves very little for their economy or for necessities like food. So what can we do about this problem? As a college, we can use our resources to help promote healthy dietary habits as well as agriculture. Helen Hu, one of the authors of the journal Diverse Issues in Higher Education, shares how students at the Initiative of American Indian Art have found a way to provide food for local tribes and promote healthy dietary habits. They do this through a greenhouse that is on campus as well as by teaching greenhouse courses. Their initiative has reached 22 local tribes and pueblos. They even provide food for their campus cafeteria. According to Lekan Oguntoyinbo, students at Arkansas School of Law have done a very similar thing. Students there have created the Indigenous Food and Agriculture Initiative. They do this to hope to be a resource for things like health, land law and policy, and financial markets for Native Americans. They have the goal to expand agriculture in Native American communities so that Native American tribes can become more financially stable. So with schools like these in mind, students at Motlow can and should follow a very similar path, especially since our community heavily thrives on agriculture. We can use our resources, such as knowledge of agriculture and our agriculture resources like land and equipment, as well as our education platform to help build Native American communities. This initiative would not only help promote healthy dietary habits, but also would help financially stabilize Native American communities. Creating such programs at schools like ours could drastically help Native American communities. These initiatives not only teach healthy eating habits, but also create a source of nutritious food and jobs for Native Americans while contributing to the economy. Rachel Mathers, an author of the Journal of Independent Review, shares how government-led and state-led development has ultimately been unsuccessful. This means that a local approach, one that focuses on individual education and growth, could potentially be the answer to solving food insecurity in these communities. Stacy Leeds, a citizen of the Cherokee Nation and the dean of the University of Arkansas School of Law, shares how their initiative is both a resource for the federal government as well as a resource for tribes, according to Oguntoyinbo. In conclusion, I talked about how Native Americans are food insecure and what we can do to help change this and why these steps are so important. These actions could potentially save a community. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this encourages you to make a difference.